And you are at this session, data collection using Google Forms for ALO students. I hope you can see my screen. I am Katie Wise. I'm one of the autism teachers at Rockville High School, and I have two other teachers in my department here with me, Ben Wisniewski and Jillian Kramer. And we're going to share with you what we've been implementing in our program this year, and hope that it interests you. In the chat, there is a link to the slides that we're going to be going through, and there's also a link to a Q&A document. So any questions you have, you can type in the document as they come up, and Jillian's live on the document, ready to answer your questions. And I'm sure there'll be time at the end too for questions. But it is a couple minutes after 10, and to honor your time, I know we all have a lot of things to do. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to hand it off to Ben.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks everybody for coming. I know there's not, speaking as a teacher of students in ALO, there's not a ton of professional development. So I think it was really great that we were able to get this session going. So we're going to kind of give a brief overview of what we've been doing here at Rockville as far as taking data, using Google Docs and using Google Forms. We'll give some examples. We'll show you kind of what it looks like for when you're taking the data, and then also when you're looking at it after the fact, when you want to analyze it for your progress reports, for your IEPs, and stuff like that. Like Katie said, if you have any questions, there's a document in the chat where you can add those, and then we should have some time at the end where we can answer questions live. But yeah, okay, so this is kind of what each student at Rockville has a page on Google Docs that looks like this. So this is like kind of their home page. And as you can see, it has some notes at the top, has the kids' username, their password, some data. And then as you can see, it's broken down into each different area. So reading, written language, daily living, so on and so forth. I know some schools do it differently, but what we do at Rockville is the students actually rotate around and do each of those academic tasks in a different classroom. So they have a homeroom class with their case manager, and then they see the other three autism teachers throughout the course of the day. So one does reading, one does math, one does daily living, and one does like work-based learning, vocational stuff. So that's why we have it broken down like that. Obviously, if they're in the same room all day, you don't need to break it down. You can just list them all out. But so if you'll see here where it says data sheet. So like if you click on that first one, checklist, that'll bring up the actual part where you take the data. So this is like a checklist unpacking. So pretty simple, plus minus. This is like as basic as it gets for taking data. Either they did it or they didn't. There's some other ones that we have where you can add a little bit more. So like, I don't know, maybe one that has prompts in it or something like that. There we go, yeah. So here's like a math goal entering into a calculator. So does he enter the amount, press it, so on and so forth. So this is kind of like in general what it looks like for taking the data. You can put a lot of the directions at the top. So if there's a sub or if it's somewhat more complex task, you can break it down up there and give some directions. It's pretty user friendly. So like in my class, for the most part, the teachers will use the Chromebooks while they're taking the data. A lot of times you can use the iPad. You can even use your phone. It's a little bit harder on your phone just because it's a smaller screen, but you can use your phone if for whatever reason your Chromebook or iPad isn't working that day. And then so if you go back to the portfolio page, so then on the right-hand side, you'll see the materials. So like, for example, to take the data for the sight word task, you might need to click on that. So you can link any like supporting materials, because the data sheet will just say like, did he get this sight word correct? Yes or no. Here is where you actually see the supporting materials with it. So we have our students carry around their Chromebooks. So we have a lot of their materials on the Chromebook, so they're not lugging around the big binders. But again, that works for us because they're switching around to 4 different classrooms. If you're all in one classroom, maybe it's not as big a deal. making everything digital, and you can just have the data sheet. So kind of whatever works for you. And then you see behavior data's in there too. That's really easy to take. So if you click on that, it's literally just, you click on it and then it'll just say, you know, what happened, when it happened. I know, like, I have one kid where we take, you know, elopement data. So it's literally just a box. You click it every time he gets out of a seat and runs. So, and then the thing just refreshes automatically. So you click it 10 times, it puts down 10 things. If you click it once, it puts down one. So like, that's really easy to take in the moment. You don't have to go grab a pencil and jot it down. So it's very intuitive. It's very user friendly. So we'll kind of talk now about how to kind of get this thing rolling. So what we do is the case manager creates all these forms, and then for the students on their caseload, and then everyone else who's taking data, the paras, the other teachers, they'll take the data on that. And yeah, so actually, yeah, click on this one, Katie. So this is what it looks like when you like export the data from that first data sheet we showed you. So what's really cool about this is it tells you the exact time it was taken, tells you who took the data, and then the score. So, you know, how many they got right. And then it'll even break down which trial. And then these trial 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that actually corresponds to what's in the data sheet. So that could say, you know, book, ball, shoe, you know, marker, depending on what's in the data sheet. So if you make it specific in your data sheet, it'll be specific here. So for, you know, progress reports, this makes it really easy, because you can even go down at the bottom, you can average out all the scores in like 2 seconds, as opposed to getting out a calculator and doing the math yourself. So, you know, because it's like an Excel document, you can, see as easy as 2 clicks, average, boom, right there. So it makes progress reports and totaling up that stuff really easy. And then it also tells you who took the data. If there's like one day that's like an extreme outlier, you can talk to that person, be like, hey, what was going on that day, and something. So that really easy. So now we're going to kind of talk about how to start, how to get this whole process rolling. And then after that, we'll open it up for some questions. We can show some more in-depth examples of like what it looks like or how we do it. So first things first, first of all, this whole thing was created by Katie. She had the great idea to start doing data digitally, and she presented it to us, the other 3 teachers on the team, and we said, yeah, it sounds great. So she did all the hard work of getting this set up. But basically what we did is we just decided how we're going to do this. So you want to do it by, you know, since we're split up by subject area, did we want to split it up by that? Did we want to split it up by caseload? And then also who's going to be responsible? Obviously, if you're a team of 1 or 2, it's real easy. You know, you're just responsible for whatever kids you have. And the one thing about that bottom part about meeting to discuss issues, so that's the thing that, since we don't necessarily see all of our students for every single task every day, you do need to set aside a time to kind of talk about it, because, you know, you can look at the data and analyze it, but seeing it face to face makes a difference. So I would highly recommend setting aside a time. If you're in a team, if you're by yourself, you don't need to, but if you're in a team, setting aside a time to talk and say, hey, here's what we're seeing, here's what I'm seeing, you know, are you guys seeing the same thing? If there's questions, or really anything, just thing that comes up if there's questions about what the programs are during the school day. A great tip there that was on that last page was to use consistent naming stuff. So like making all the files say, you know, like student name data sheet, you know, so it's not, so that it's really easy to look for it. And also, yeah, start small. Start with 1 kid. Start with 1 kid, 1 goal area. If you hate it, you hate it. It is what it is. It's not for everybody. That's fine. But yeah, I think it's a really good way to go. So yes, these are things that are very important. Obviously, since we're all talking about taking data digitally, you do need some technology to do that. So what we were able to get through the autism program, a whole bunch of iPads that I know they had at their main office. So we have in our classrooms usually between 2 to 3 iPads and then a couple of Chromebooks. As you know, every kid has a Chromebook. So we have our kids bring their Chromebooks every day. Some kids who are, need more support with that, we have them leave them at school and we charge it up for them. But you can use anything. You can use an iPad. You can use another kind of tablet if you have something else. Chromebook makes it really easy. You can use your smartphone. It is a little harder there just because the screen's smaller, but if that's not an issue, you can definitely use your smartphone. And so one of the ways we've been able to get iPads in the past was we've written some grants. I think I want to give the wrong name of the MCPS office that does it, but I think maybe Interact or somebody like that has a grant program where you can purchase an iPad for your school. The IT person, if you're at a middle or high school, usually has access to some extra Chromebooks and or computers that you'll be able to use, your school administration. So don't be afraid to ask because, it might be there and you don't even know about it. So I'd say certainly advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for something. If you're in a program like the autism program, I know they have some in their office for LFI and SCB. I know you guys don't really have like a singular head, so I would reach out to your school-based people there. So just some other tips, like we said, naming the files consistently, so that it's readily apparent when you click on that file what you're going to actually be looking at. Color coding is another good way to do it. So you can color code like by students, by subject area, so that, again, it makes it easier to find, just so that when you're compiling all this at the end of the quarter, you're not digging around looking for everything. You're like, oh, red means reading, blue is math, so I pull all the red files and all the blue files. And then to designate one person to create the files is also important because, as you guys know, if you're familiar with Google, everyone can edit it, which is great, but then sometimes that leads to some problems because they're editing things you don't want edited. So I would say, yeah, designate one person to create this, and then you can have them share it with people and then work from there. So that's kind of our spiel, our presentation on why we like this and why I think it's a good idea. It's still early, so we got plenty of time for questions, and or if you guys want to see more specifics or more examples of what it looks like. And are there any
that you use for your participation?
Yes. So make sure you get credit for being here today. Are there any questions that have come up in the Q&A or the chat?
Nope, no questions.
Okay, cool. Well, if you guys want, we could click through kind of of what it looks like to create it. Yeah, there we go. So this is like how to create this. So we're not going to go like super in depth. We'll share this presentation with you so that if you do want to try it out on your own, you can take your own time and do it. But yeah, this is a good way. So this is a great template that we've created. But again, if it's too much for you, you don't have to do it like this. There's a link there. So once you get a share of this presentation, you can make a copy. But I think this is a really good way to do it. Katie created all this. I think it works really well for us. But again, modify it so it works for you. If you only want to do it for certain areas, then just make it one page or one area. You don't even need to split it up like that. We don't need to play the video, but there is a video that Katie made of how to actually create that. So it goes into a little bit more depth about how to make that like portfolio page we saw. So I saw there is a question that said, how do you prioritize what data to take? And is Google your primary method? So yes, for us, Google is our primary method. In the past, we took data, just paper and pencil, and each kid had like a stapled packet of stuff where we took all their data. guess it's been about a year now. So like obviously during COVID, we were all virtual, but when we came back from COVID, we all were doing digital data. And then as far as what to take, so that just comes straight from their IEP. So, and whatever is on their goals there, we're taking priority wise. I know what you're saying, like sometimes you don't get to everything, and that's fine. I mean, most IEPs is not written that the data is taken daily. I think if you can present a clear picture of what the task was and an analysis of what worked, what didn't work, and a clear picture of the general accuracy of it, I think that's fine there. So, because I know, high school 45-minute classes, sometimes you don't get everything, and that's fine. But and that with this thing, you can even indicate, hey, take this data Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, take this data Thursday, Friday, or something like that. So you can include all this on this portfolio screen, and you could say, only do this every other day if you're looking for something that they may have already mastered, or every third day or something like that, if you're on a system like that.
One thing I just want to add into is on the portfolios, these little boxes are all check boxes. So when you click it after doing it, you can see that data was done. So then the next day you might not need to do that. You should prioritize something else that was not done the previous day or the previous class period.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
Sorry, Caitlin, can you repeat that last piece?
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that these squares here are check boxes. So when you click one after completing the data, it'll strike through and have a check box. So it'll look as if it's been finished. So when you return the next day, you'll see what was done previously. So what you need to prioritize for that day.
That's great. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, she did make that. I know. I was impressed too.
Well, I was just gonna say I would really love a class from you on how to do all that, because I would love to be able to do that stuff. But sometimes I just like put it in the back of all the things I have to do. But that would be a cool class. Like, I don't know, one of those ALL like after school stuff. But I don't want to like make you do more stuff. But I love it.
No, and for sure. And I tried on here to make like a lot of step-by-step directions and then videos as well. So I know it's like hard to go through something like this versus having someone walk you through it. But like at Rockville, when I talked to Ben and Jillian about it, I would say that it probably took like 2 to 3 minutes for me to show them how to do most of it from what I had. And then you just make copies and it's really fast. So I'm also happy to do that with you on Zoom. If you want to like take down my email address, I'm happy to do that with you. But it really is very like quick to learn if you're somewhat familiar with Google, which I feel like after the pandemic, most of us know a little bit about Google. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know
How do we get a copy of this presentation?
I put the link in the chat and I can put it back in the chat again. So I'll put a link to the slides in the chat and then you can access it on your own.
Yeah, and so that'll have all the videos and the step-by-step kind of how-tos. And like
Thank
I
you.
was saying, I know it looks like a lot, it looks overwhelming, but actually when you break it down, it's not too bad. And like Katie said, you don't need to be a Google expert to use this. You just need to know how to do a few things. And then the great thing about it is once you create one data sheet, you can literally copy that and just change the terms. So if you create one for, sight words, it's very easy to copy and paste that and then just change it to counting or change it to whatever, so you don't need to create 25 different data sheets. You can create 1 or 2 basic templates and then adjust those.
And just to
I
add
have a
in,
question. So can you use like a template of yours and make a copy and go off of that?
Yeah, so I included these in the slideshow. These are some starter forms. This is one for expressive sight words, next dollar and counting money, typing personal information. Any of these links that you click on will automatically make a copy of my form. I'll just click on it to show you. So it says, would you like to make a copy? And you click make a copy. And then you have it, an editable form here that already is, kind of set up, but you could enter the students' sight words that they're working on or the trials. And you just have to edit this to make it yours. But this then becomes your own form. It's not mine anymore.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's really good.
And when you guys set your permissions for Google Forms, do you set them for like all of Montgomery County so any paras or subs can access them, or what do you do?
I would say we try to keep it just to the school staff, just for, I guess, confidentiality. But then if there is a sub, typically we'll have this sub use a device with our login in it. So I'll log in onto the device for the sub, and then they'll enter the data as me. You can make it for everyone in Montgomery County Public Schools, though. I don't really see a problem with that, but it's personal preference, I guess.
What I do is like for the sheet where you actually take the data, I think I just make that open to everybody. But then for like those supporting documents where the actual targets are, I usually just make that like me and the paras, just so that in case somebody accidentally deletes one of the pictures or whatever. But if for the data sheet, like if you take the data wrong, you can easily just delete that. But so just like student materials, generally those are more locked down, but the data sheet, it's not as important.
Awesome, thank you.
one thing I just wanted to add real quick was, for when we would go on community outings or job sites like that, instead of taking a big packet of paper with you, because I know like you would, drop the paper, it would rain, you'd lose your pencil. This is very portable. You just have your phone. You can preload it onto an iPad and take that with you. So it's very versatile throughout all of what ALO is, whether you're in school, whether you're out, and everything like that.
Did it help you to develop more consistency with utilizing data, or were you already proficient with that?
I definitely think it helped us hold people accountable, because now you can see, oh, there hasn't been data taken for like this amount of days in this specific subject. You go to that teacher, that staff, and say, hey, what's been going on? What can I help you with? Whereas with the paper copy, it's really easy to fudge that data, but with the, the timestamp and everything, it's very concrete. You can't really dispute timestamps. So I definitely think in my personal experience, it's been holding me more accountable to make sure that I get as many targets done in the day or in a week. And it's definitely helped, I think, our overall program with being consistent with taking data for all subject areas.
I think to add on to that a little bit, sometimes I feel like there's those IEP objectives that I kind of like forget about. Like, I just feel like there's ones that we're not working on as actively. But if they're all on that sheet, you'll see like, oh, right, I need to, I need to remember to do that community goal. When we're in community, oftentimes I feel like we're doing so many different things. We're not necessarily thinking about specific student objectives, but this kind of keeps those objectives like in your face all the time. So, and you can sort of plan instruction around that.
Thank you, that is super helpful.
Yeah, sure. And so did everyone get the participant survey? Because I know at Rockville, that's how they're like making sure we did what we were supposed to do today. So I want to make sure you got that so that you can prove it to your administration too, that you were here. So I'll send that again, just in case. And it's also in the slides now that you have access to the slides.
Yeah, it's actually so cool because I know I have a lot of my same students next year. And this year I was a first year SCB teacher, and I took some data, but not on the level that I really want to be functional. So I think that I'm gonna spend some time, at the end of the school year, setting up for next year, and then just
Yeah,
kind of be ready
definitely.
to step in. So thank you.
I had been working on pre-COVID for a few years, so it might not happen overnight, but I really do feel like it's worth putting in the effort. And now that it's like most of like the time I spent was trying to figure it out, and here it's like mostly figured out for you. You just have to make copies. So I hope that it benefits everyone as much as it's benefit us. And so on that note, I think it's just about time.
Yeah, it's just about
Right.
2:30, so.
Thank you guys so
So,
much.
yeah, if you have any questions, you can email me, or we'll keep checking that question and answer doc as well.
Do we click the session feedback? There's two options, session feedback or post-event feedback.
I don't know. I would do. That's from.
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's from like they created that, not me. So I don't know. I would do.
I guess you guys are one of two sessions, maybe?
I would say session feedback because the event is there. I would do session. I'm not really sure though. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I would assume
Thank
session, yeah.
I would assume that.
Who knows?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you guys. Did a great job like always. Rest
Oh
teachers.
man, what a special
Oh,
guest. I didn't
Mr.
know we
Weaver, you
had-
joined us.
Oh man,
I was here the whole
legend among
time. What are you
us.
talking about? Great job, guys.
Oh man, Mr. Weaver doing some professional development.
Wow.
I know. I know it's surprising. I know.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Try my best.
Keep up the
Hey,
great work.
thanks for sending me everything, guys. See you then.
Thank you
everyone for
so much.
coming.
Thank you so much. This was really fantastic. I mean, the videos and the examples and the how you guys were sharing as a team, how successful it was for you, is really great. I've been wanting to do this for the past year. I saw somebody else share it in an ALO session last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really need to do that, but it's going to take so much time. It's going to be so hard. All those excuses of why you're not. And for you to have provided all of this, the step-by-step instructions and the examples that we can make copies of, it's going to really make me use my summer in a productive way and create all this so I can get next year started out great.
Remember to relax this summer too, though. Right?
I
That's
will.
what they always
Don't
tell
work
us.
Definitely I will. But I think it's going to be a lot quicker than it would have if I had to try and figure it out myself. Yeah, this is going to be great. So thank you.
I
Is that
put her.
Redmond?